I am a queer man with trans experience. I use he, him pronouns, and it's taken me a while to sort of find an identity that encompasses all of that and be comfortable with it. Yeah. I started socially transitioning in, I want to say, seventh grade. And my middle school wasn't really, they're not conservative, but like people weren't as open-minded. Granted, I mean, we were all children, and children parrot back what they've been taught. But I learned fairly quickly that the adults in their life weren't as open-minded as others needed them to be. And fairly quickly, I had to weed people out and sort of find a group that I could feel comfortable with without having to censor who I was. And even after doing that, people would still say what they wanted to say to me in free time or in passing, and that was difficult to work with and work through because I was already struggling with loving myself enough to want to transition so that I could continue my life. But I can get away from them, and they can't get away from themselves. So at the end of the day, they didn't really do anything except waste their own time. The way people perceive you changes really fast. And I guess the way that I perceived myself also changed because I had these ideas from when I was little that some of them may have been passed down, but they were goals that had been set for my life that weren't going to be met anymore. And in a way, the beginning of my transition was sort of mourning this little girl that wasn't going to live a full life anymore. But in her place, I was able to, enjoy being alive, which is far more important to me than she was. But the way people perceived me after I started my transition, when I was, when I presented and sounded and looked like a girl, people would listen, but they wouldn't hear what I was saying. And as soon as like my medical transition was underway, people became more attentive to what I had to say and why I was saying it, which is frustrating for a multitude of reasons. Because I mean, if someone's saying something, you should listen to them anyway. Gender doesn't really have anything to do with the quality of what they're putting out into the world. There is a fantastic group that I found for trans teens, and it runs in three different subsections. There's one for teens, one for younger children, and then there's a section for parents of trans people. And that was a really big support in my life for a long time. That helped a lot, and it made transitioning on a familial level a lot smoother than it would have been without it. And it felt good to know that there were other people that were going through the same sort of struggles that I was going through, but were also making the same steps to resolve those issues that I was making. And we were all going to get to where we needed to be at the end of the day, even if it took us a lot more effort and time to do it than we wanted. Start by listening. You can do all the research you want, but at the end of the day, none of that really holds any light or any weight in comparison to being able to listen to somebody else's story firsthand and getting a better idea of how you can support them. Because with being an ally, you can be an ally to one person and still be an ally and make a huge change in their life. And by doing that, you're building the set of skills needed to be able to be an ally to other people along the road. And by being an ally to that one person at the outset, you're giving them the knowledge that somebody is there for them outside of themselves, which is one of the most important things that isn't really given enough of the time to young people that are queer or trans. And we have to look out for ourselves a lot of the time. Find people that don't require you to cushion your identity for their comfort. By finding that group of people, you can really sort through a lot of the struggles that are being presented to you. And if you find yourself surrounded by the right sort of people who will love you and support you enough, it becomes a lot easier to admit that you love yourself enough to do the things that you need to do for yourself. I started medically transitioning when I was at the end of my 9th grade year. And after a year of testosterone, my friend threw me like a little party, as like COVID compliant as it could be, but he baked me a cake. And I think that was the nicest thing that up until that point, anyone outside of the people that I needed to support me had done, because he didn't have to do that. But I felt loved. I don't know. That felt really great. So bake your friends a cake. Make yourself a cake. You don't even need a reason. Just make yourself a cake to show that you love yourself.